This is the 365 Message Center show where we have lots of fun with YouTube. You're not seeing this live. Maybe you are. Maybe I'm doing a bit of magic and I'm just pushing it out there and you're joining us in a live kind of fashion, but we had fun with YouTube this morning. Anyway, we're going to be covering off a few messages in the Message Center, and our headline for today is all about Walkie Talkie for Microsoft Teams in Android. Let's go. Yeah. Fun with buttons too. There we go. Right, so, welcome. So
Hello.
Good to see you here.
Yes, so good to be here.
And so good to be chatting with everyone over in the chat room.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's wonderful.
Yep,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's show. We are, as you know, if you've been watching or listening to the podcast for the past few weeks, we've changed things up a little bit. The show is about helping you plan for change, stay informed, and get you the information about breaks and how to fix those, covering the Message Center. But we're going to cover and highlight some of the messages that we feel are very important. We're not going to hit on every message because there's just too much. However, we would like to hear from you, our show listeners and watchers. So if you would, and I think this may be our last time promoting this, we might do it one more time, but please go to messagecenter.show/June poll and give us some feedback on the show. This is only for our listeners. So go to messagecenter.show/June the month poll. And I know there's a lot of you that have not responded to it because it's about 5% of our viewership has responded. So the other 95%, we would love to hear from you. Please go and give us some feedback. So I think we've got we're going to cover, 6 messages or so. I will say one thing that I did notice, Darrell, was this week, a lot of updated messages from previous weeks. Some were the thing we've been seeing here lately with the typical, we're pausing or slowing things down, for all the changes in the service. There was a couple that were about, hey, we've changed the messaging a little bit, or we've changed some of the rollout. So highly encourage all of you to go out to your Message Center and see about all the updates that are posted.
Yes, because the Message Center is still relatively specific to your tenant. I say that now because I've also seen a few messages this week, Daniel, where it goes along the lines of, if you don't use this or if you have not got this in your tenant, then this is not for you. Which does suggest that some product groups pay a little bit extra maybe and get the little readout that says, these guys use the service, let's target that message.
Or, we've talked about this from the inception, I think, of the show, is some messages which probably should be targeted are not targeted, meaning I'm not using a Dynamics 365 or something.
Project.
Let's call it, or project maybe this week. But there's a message about it in the Message Center. Sometimes that's because and we talked about this with the product team, the Message Center team, that sometimes it has an implication in not just the product, but other places. But then also it's what if you use it in the future, you need to know about this, or which some might call marketing. But anyway,
Yep.
It is what it is.
That's right. Well, our first one that we're going to open up with is there's an interesting read. This is your one, Enabling Communication Site Experience on Classic Team Sites.
Yeah, this is MC216591. Enable Communication Site Experience on Classic Team Sites. So just as the title reads, it is getting that site modern communication site experience on your classic team sites. This is, first off, PowerShell only. So, we're not changing things yet in the UI. This is only PowerShell. So this is admins only. And what this really does, and it's actually pretty simple, it doesn't, honestly, when I think about this in this whole process, not the process, but the actual end result, I would love for it to do a whole lot more than it's doing. All it's really doing is it's creating a new modern page in your site and then marking it as the home page for your site. That's pretty much all it's doing. The classic site, all of the functionality, all of the libraries, all of the lists, all the permissions, everything remains the same. So it really doesn't turn your classic site into a modern site. So don't think that it does that. Underlying the underpinning of the site is still that STS #0. For those of you that have been in SharePoint and done some design or development, that is the site template internal name, and that's not changing. All it's doing is creating a modern page. So it has to have the library, the pages library there to support it. But then it creates that page and then sets it as your homepage. In fact, your old homepage is still there. So, if there's an issue, or one thing that you could do is you could run this against your site and then quickly go to your existing homepage and mark it as the homepage again, and then go back to the new modern page that was created and build it out, right? Because it will be the out-of-the-box default page, and so you might want to do that manual step to go back and build that page back out and then swap it back. So I actually think it would be interesting to have like a switch on this PowerShell to say, do this, but don't make it my homepage. Like
as in, give it to you, but don't make it live.
Yeah, basically, like say, do everything except mark this new modern page as the homepage. I actually would like that, and it would reduce a couple of, it would reduce a step or two there. But anyway, so that's what this is all about. It is targeted release, rollout by the end of June 2020. And here we are almost at the end of June of 2020. So during this episode, I'm not going to do what I did last week, which was highlighting when
how many red X's
missed the boat with giving us a 30-day notice. They're supposed to be kind of graded on this, and the leaders of the product team get kind of a scorecard of, hey, your team is not making the grade. And so I'm just going to lay off that this week. But anyway, the rollout will be completed for all customers by the end of July. So I think this is great. This is part of the journey to modernize your environment. So it's part of it, and it's great. But don't be confused at what's going on here. And the last thing I'll say, Darrell, what do you think about this? In the message, they have a GIF that's running through how do you enable how you do it. So they show you, here's your classic site. Here's you running the PowerShell. Let's reload the page. It's our modern site.
It's not showing as a GIF in my view, because I think it's run its 50 loop circuit or whatever someone has set it to, rather than infinite.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right.
I kind of like it. Do you like it? To be able to have a little...
Yeah, I've seen that trend where the GIFs are used more than just showing this is what a product is, but there is a process to it. And I think it's quite a clever way of doing that without actually embedding a video or anything like that.
Yeah.
You're not going to see it in the mobile experience because there's nothing visual there, but it's helpful to see it here. Yeah. One question I'd have around this, it's creating a home page, but the rest of your home site is still classic, so it's not changing the whole site to it. Yeah. What situation do you think you would just want to bump the home page, and then if people click through to different other parts of the site, they go back to classic? Is that going to drive people in branding a bit nutty?
Maybe, but remember the homepage is the kind of that where most people get their experience. And so that branding would be great. You get the branding with, if you attach it to a hub site, for instance, and, get some of that branding. I think the key here, though, is, we have the ability to have modern experience on our lists as well. So it's kind of a piecemeal way of doing it. But because, like I said, the template is still based on that team site template, you just can't change it from, it can't just become a modern site.
Yeah.
There's no magic juju to do that.
All right.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Next message is hello. What is the Android assistant? Oh, I guess it's Google, right? Okay, Google.
Kind
play
of.
my emails.
Yeah. Okay. Google. Outlook for Android launches Play My Emails. This is MC216371. We had the announcement for the same feature, Play My Emails for iOS. That was announced and shortly released, I think, after November, Ignite. And, when I first heard about it, I'm like, whatever, it's like, voice to text, right? It's just going to read out your email and, well, I'm a bit resistant to reading email if I have to, and I don't think a robot's going to change that. It's actually more than that, and, I'm glad I took a closer look at this message. However, before I get too far into it, there's not much I can do to experience it because it's rolling out to US only. So rest of the world, it used to be cloud first, mobile first, US first. This is another one of those. The feature itself gradually rolling out to United States late June, and expect to roll out complete mid-July. The thing is, it isn't just voice to text. So if you haven't had a look at this already, or you're maybe just looking at what is this thing, it is AI behind it. More than just voice to text, it is taking things like signal from the graph and saying, look, this is an email from your manager, so I'm going to tell you that. I can see, or the AI can see, that these messages came in throughout the day, dotted in and out, but they're all part of the same conversation thread. So when you invoke me, I'm going to read that conversation thread. I'm not just going to go, it arrived here then, and then I'm going to skip to another message of an entirely different context. There's lots of little smart things like that. Reading out things that are going to change your day at the beginning. Like if someone's rescheduling an appointment, it'll prioritize that so you can get your day organized. It sounds like it's a really smart voice assistant. Daniel, you're a Apple user, iPhone user. Have you tried this Play My Emails on iOS?
I actually haven't. The really the way I work right now with being at home, it's such a short commute to the desk that I can just read my emails. I do a lot of voice to text. So the other way around, dictating.
Oh yeah, I should have said text to voice, not voice to text.
Yeah, it's text to voice, but so my commute is so short right now. I don't use it, but if I had any sort of commute from from public transportation, or even if I'm walking in from the parking garage into my place of work or something, being able to do this real quickly, I think would be an awesome way to get prepared to when you sit down in your seat, you've gotten a quick update of what's going on within your email, but within your day, and then have this throughout the day, be able to do this. So I think it would be a great feature.
Yeah, they talk about being able to have a conversation with it like it is a virtual assistant, like saying, next message, or, helping that along. And I'm glad you brought up commute, because I think that's where a lot of uses, you're going to see this used a lot, because there's this mode where it's big buttons, and it's about swiping, and it's very easy to interact with. So it's a bit like it's built for being in a car at that stage. Although I know that some states in the US will actually still give you a ticket or something, even if you touch your phone.
Right. Yes. Well, not just some, a lot, most.
Okay. Most, right.
It is, but as long as you're interacting with it, instead of with your voice instead of with your hands, then I don't see an issue, because it's hands free. It's not.
Yeah. You don't have to actually tap the screen, although it is an option. So yes, it's going to be available by end of July. Mid-July to the US. What else can I say about it? Yeah, just try it out. There is a few various settings there if you want to make it unavailable for people in your organization, if you want to turn these sorts of things off, and if you personally want to turn off the offer to play my emails, you've got a switch there in the settings that you can do so. So there you go. Next message is Fluent design coherence updates for SharePoint. It's some interesting phraseology going on here, but this is MC216864, and this is really about SharePoint adopting Fluent UI. And as the message talks about, this is something Microsoft has been using, and they're trying to bring in this coherence across the product, this being able to have consistency across all the products. So Fluent UI is a standard user interface for products that is open source, cross-platform design system. And so as it applies to SharePoint here, most of these changes will be subtle, quote unquote, such as, and it talks about in the message, increased opacity for drop shadows, bolder font weights. And if you don't know what that means, then it just means, kind of darker, bolder, but don't think there's a difference between, when you're typing up and you go, oh, I want to make this bold. It's like, there's a huge difference. This should be just a little slight difference. Rounded corners and slight color adjustments. And so I think this is the important part about this is it's going to change. It's going to look different. And so while this may seem kind of small, and even in the message, oh, these are just subtle, I believe you should actually communicate this to your users, to your IT team. And I don't think it has to be a huge, we've got to rebrand everything. You just, maybe redo things as you go over time with your training materials and such. But I do think you should communicate it. And it's not really a technical reason. The reason I think you should communicate it really is you're going to have users that notice it. And they're going to go, this is different, right? And for those that notice it and will make mention of it, it would be great, though, that they know their IT people are on top of things and know what's coming. And this is kind of like a PR thing for admins. Just let people know that it's happening, and that they have confidence in you that you're keeping up with the change, and that you're watching our show. So I think the really kind of the only warning sign I will give you is that if you are integrating with any sort of third-party product that changes UI or is using any kind of JavaScript or any kind of script moving things around in your environment or reshaping things or whatever on your pages, just keep a watch on it, right? Because there could be some things where it goes beyond the subtle change to a drastic change, or to you can think about things not lining up anymore, or, stuff like that where you can't click the thing that's underneath, stuff like that. Just be mindful of those changes that are coming, and it may affect those. So that is coming, targeted release customers in late June.
I'm just going to stare at the camera for a moment. And then standard release early July, end of or completed by the mid-July. So we're having less than a month notice for complete rollout.
All right. Good thing it's just a subtle, cohesive, coherent, fluent upgrade. But I'm sure it will. We can see some hints of what Fluent looks like already in Microsoft 365, can't we? If you go and you look at the new Yammer experience, that's
right.
That's running on Fluent. Cool.
Next message, Darrell.
Yeah, this one doesn't sound like much, but I wanted to sort of point or bring it up. Microsoft Teams improvements in meeting experience for the Safari browser, EMC 216823. When I read this, I was like, really? This is what Mac Safari people have been going through? And then, following question was, well, why don't they just download the full client and use Teams? This update is all about making it possible for you to join a meeting and use audio through your devices. Because up until now, if you wanted to use Safari and you would join a meeting, you had to dial in. You had to provide your audio via a phone call. I thought, really? Is that? Yeah. For those on the podcast, Daniel just gave me eyes like, huh? Yeah, that's right. Now, yeah, the discussion there for me is like, okay, so the best experience is download the full Teams client, then it will use your audio devices. For some reason, they had to take some time to make this possible through the Safari web browser. And like we know that Apple's quite particular about the way you touch their system and the way you work with it and call certain things. So who knows? There could have been some difficulties and delays there. But now, equality. Yeah, so if you want to be able to attend this Teams meeting and you don't have Microsoft Teams client installed, then you can do so from the Safari browser. Don't have to dial in. Use your audio devices via the Safari browser. But yeah, I'd finish off there and say, what do you think, Daniel? What do you think would be a reason why someone would go, no, I'm not going to download it. I'm going to just still use the Safari web browser. I do not want to use Teams on my desktop.
Yeah, I think if you don't have Teams in your environment, so you're just joining Teams calls out randomly, when your client or when you're just trying to collaborate with somebody who happens to use Teams, then you might not download it. I think for the most part, I would assume people have switched browsers for those calls so that they could actually have audio. I think I also think a lot of people, I don't want to stereotype people, which is you can get in trouble here, but I think a lot of people who are Mac users are anti-Microsoft, or not anti-Microsoft, but they may be more inclined to use Zoom and GoToMeeting and other types, Google and all these other types of meeting platforms versus Teams. I just get that feeling. I have no data to back that up, and again, so I may be getting in trouble here. I know there are people on Macs that are, total in Microsoft 365, and I know that. I'm just saying in general, I think people,
I think
lightweight users, I guess.
Yeah, I think your first point about it being more about the people you invite along to your meetings. If you're an organization that is using Teams and you send out a meeting invite, then this enables a Mac user who isn't using Teams to attend this meeting easier. They don't have to download the client. They can just get on in and do that without too much hassle. It caught me by surprise. I didn't know this was the experience that people had to use. Imagine inviting a participant along who doesn't have Teams. They're a Mac user. They go to join the meeting and they using their default browser, which is Safari, and they can't dial in. Oh, they have to dial in to get the audio. Surprising. But yeah, it looks like this applies to Safari 13.1 and newer on macOS, so it could have been a recent upgrade of sorts. Next message is...
Next message is all about iOS and Teams. And so this is MC216842. New feature, Inline Chat message translation for iOS. So as the title talks about, this is translating chat messages in Teams on your mobile device, iOS. And this users set their own language. So when in your own client, you set which language that you want messages to be read, that you want to see. And so if someone's sending a different language, then you will see the language that you've chosen. This is iOS only for now. And it has to be enabled by an admin. I don't know why it has to be enabled by an admin. That seems... I have a couple of things maybe why, but it seems weird that it has to be enabled by an admin via PowerShell or the Teams Admin Center. So two reasons I kind of just brainstormed and like, why in the world would this be, after I got over the shock of an admin has to enable this?
Yeah.
Is maybe they're doing that way so it's a slower rollout for performance, so maybe less people would actually use it if they do it this way, or not less people, but gradual rather than
it's
just
not
being
on
turned
by
on for
default.
everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And the second one was maybe kind of the same reason, but for accuracy rather than performance. Maybe it's, making sure that there's no bugs or something. I don't know.
But it's a strange one because in other places where it's got to do with your personal experience and language, that you can just turn it on or off. And in some cases it's not even a switch, it's just a native feature that's there and it will translate it for you. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like the update. I like the functionality. It's just the only bone I have to pick with it is the release schedule, because it's rollout completed by mid-July, so they're not giving us a month. But the really major bone is, why would an admin have to enable it? I think this is cool and great functionality to bring people together and help you and empower your people to do more. And so why not turn it on by default? But anyway, I love it.
Yeah.
Love the update. So that's all I want. Anything I think the last message we want to talk about, Darrell, is Darrell, are you there?
You didn't say over, so I'm not going to respond. Yeah, that's better. Breaker, yeah, and all that. CBs, Smokey and the Bandit, all that sort of stuff. Walkie Talkie in Teams for Android. MC 216749, our headline for the week. This caused a bit of stir when it was talked about earlier in the year. It was a blog post and it was wrapped in with a few other first line worker announcements that were going to enable a better experience there. And it's coming to Android as a public preview to start with. So that is expected to be available mid-July and complete by end of July. And it makes me want to just bust out my wife's broken Android phone just so I can see it to start with. I know I don't have one, but I could use that to take a look eventually. The thing I like about this is we did have, I think it was, mid to late 90s, or even the early 2000s, there was push-to-talk phones on some of our phone networks around the world. Dedicated button, push the button. You could have a conversation like a CB radio, and you're getting that kind of like conversation going about well, the use cases I see it's about providing sort of real time situational information, decision making. You know, you're in a event management, or you're in security, or you're on a building site or something like that. You have that need to get a hold of people and say something quickly to a group of people. I think that it's going to be interesting to see as it comes out how people will use it. I even imagine, you know, if we went back a month or so, and some of us are still sort of in COVID lockdown, how this might be used to keep in touch with people as opposed to typed group chat.
Well, that's exactly what I was just thinking. It was about, you know, we have this ability in Teams to ping people and have it ping over and over again until they respond, right? And so what if you use this instead? It's kind of a step up from that in an I don't know about urgent, but a right now kind of way of instead of sending a message and you looking at it when you have the opportunity, right? You're yes, I'm going to look at it, and it's going to keep reminding me until I look at it. Now I'm going to say something to you, and it's going to be right there and talking to me. You know, you're going to be able to chat to me. So I think I don't know that the thing you were mentioning before about having cell service that did this before. We had phones where it's kind of that walkie talkie. You didn't have to really do anything. It just functioned that way if you had the right equipment and the right service. Here, you do have to connect to a walkie talkie in a channel to become a participant.
I've got questions about that.
So what makes you a participant, Darrell? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it talks about channel membership, and you know, like sometimes when you see in some movies and they say, hey, we've got something to talk about, but let's change to channel 7, you know, so we could keep it on the down low. It's a bit like that, you know, it literally is about changing channels. It is using a channel within a team, and there's this talk of being a member of a team. You have to be a member of a channel to then be part of a walkie-talkie session. And it comes back to what is defined as membership of a channel. At the moment, it's this thing that we do where we show a channel, and now it's visible and available underneath our team. But there's also that aspect of I've set notifications to a channel, and I want to get notifications. Which is it, one or the other, or a combination of both, that makes me a member of this channel?
And that's with a lot of this is the details are going to be pretty important of how you utilize this and roll it out to your users and educate them on how to do it. So I think testing is going to be required. And those use cases of what you were just talking about of how do I interact? Just because I'm a member of a channel, does it automatically start doing it because I'm a member of that team? Or do I have to be in the channel for the what? Or do I have to do something even more special? Yeah.
And how do I opt out?
Right. Well, opt out, but I mean, you're exactly right. There is a lot of use cases for this. Think about maintenance at a hotel or in an event, or security, like you said, or a construction site, or a small community like an assisted living, or nurses at a hospital. I mean, there's a lot of things where this could play. It's just, or teachers. Yeah. I mean, so what is it that we need to do, and what is the functionality? I think the devil is in the details, as they say.
Yes. Yeah, I think because I've never really been in a role or a job where I've had that need for a radio like this, but when I look at some of the roles that do, front of house retail, and like event management, often it's not about the conversation that I'm having between two people. It's also about the 20, 30 people that are on the same channel that are listening and hearing what's happening. And so they're aware of the decisions and the things that are happening. Yes. So a bit like listening to a podcast. that event manager says blah blah blah, can you go to front of house because there's a bit of a kerfuffle there, there's something that's broken or whatever, go check it out. Now one person's going and doing something about it, or maybe 5 people could respond, but the rest of the people know that there is something there, so they can adjust their behavior and offer a better service.
That's exactly right. And I actually have worked in a space,
right.
Bear with me here, but I have worked in a space where this worked, and it was in a mall. Okay. It was when I was in high school, and I had a job at a location that had satellite locations in the mall. So kiosk. It was a food place, very delicious food place. Oh, it probably added to my weight.
Come back, Daniel, come back.
Anyway, so we had the central place where things were cooked and, central store. But then there were satellite places throughout the mall where we would deliver food, and it would be sold there and kept warm there or whatever. But so you didn't have to go to that one central place. Well, what often happened, it was just one worker working those satellite places. And if you ran out of something, there really wasn't a way to connect to the central place. So you basically had to shut it down, walk all the way back, and get something or tell them it was happening. And or the central place had to send people every once in a while to check. In this case, you could use this, I'm running out of whatever. Well, the central place doesn't have anything, but yet, but maybe the other satellite place does have too much of it. And so they're listening, and they go, oh, wait, no, I have plenty of this. I'll run over some, right? Yeah. So there's opportunities where I think this could come in play. In fact, my first job as a server admin, where you're in the server room and you have Wi-Fi, but you don't have cell service because you're, in the dungeon, it would be great to be able to talk to all the server admins. Hey, I'm in the server room, and this, there's a rack that's totally down, and I can't get this thing up. Can everyone come down here and help?
Yeah. Well, the other IT scenario, and I've definitely experienced this, is rollouts and floor walking. The need to be there and available, and you've got a team of sort of 3 or 4 people that are helping as people go live and they've been cut over to something. This sort of thing is great because you can, again, talk to the whole group, and you can say, oh, I'm over here, I'm working on this. Hey, can you check this out, please? And someone back at home base does a few changes. Yep, got it sorted. But everyone's aware. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see when it comes out. As I said, I think I will break out the broken Android and check it out and keep an eye out for it. There isn't any support information yet. So they are holding that back, I guess, until it becomes or starts to roll out mid-July. So that's when you start using that old Google trick of site:/support.office.com and then the gap and then Walkie Talkie. You might find something pop up eventually. But yeah, apart from that, it is public preview, something that you have to turn on. It's an app setup policy or app policy within Teams to turn it on, make it available, and that is about it. Now, got anything else?
I don't think so.
Oh, all right. Well, that is us. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Hopefully this has definitely helped you become aware of the few things that we've covered, and done a bit of a deeper dive on how this will affect you and your organization, how to plan for this change and prepare people.
Don't forget to fill out the survey, please, and let us know how things are going. messagecenter.show/June poll. Thank you, everybody.
It's still June.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.